Have you ever found yourself in a constant tug of war, feeling perpetually drained because you're always saying yes when, well, every fiber of your being screams no? Or perhaps you look at your relationships and you wonder why the same sort of unbalanced patterns keep appearing, leaving you feeling unseen, maybe unheard, and just profoundly confused.
Yeah, that feeling of why does this keep happening?
Exactly. If that resonates even a little bit, then this deep dive is precisely for you.
Okay.
Today, we're embarking on a really crucial and I think incredibly insightful journey. We're going to navigate the often misunderstood landscape of codependency,
Right.
explore the profound impact of relationship trauma, and then equip you with powerful, practical tools. Things like self-care, boundaries, clear communication for, true lasting healing.
And these are complex psychological concepts, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, for sure.
But our mission today is to try and cut through maybe some of the academic jargon, the common misconceptions, and provide you with a clear, engaging, and hopefully deeply actionable exploration. It's sort of custom-tailored to help you quickly become well-informed on these vital topics.
And more importantly, to apply them to your own life.
Precisely. What's truly fascinating here is how our diverse stack of sources, we've looked at everything from deeply personal anecdotes to really rigorous clinical frameworks. They all converge on a central transformative idea. Understanding ourselves and our relational patterns isn't just like an interesting academic exercise.
Right. It's not just theory.
No, it's the absolutely essential first step towards profound, life-altering change. For this deep dive, we've pulled insights from a really wide array of material.
So what have we got?
Well, we've got a raw and incredibly relatable Reddit thread where individuals bravely share their personal practices, their struggles in overcoming people-pleasing. It's very candid.
Wow, okay.
We've also drawn from practical therapy worksheets and resources like those from Therapist Aid, which offer, concrete guidance on setting boundaries, building self-esteem.
Really practical stuff.
Yeah, very hands-on. We've analyzed insightful research from health resources like Verywell Health on the often overlooked area of relationship trauma. And finally, we've synthesized detailed CBT-based explanations and exercises directly from the Codependency Workbook, which provides a really structured approach to understanding and recovering from codependency.
Okay, so quite a range of sources there. Our mission in this deep dive is pretty laser focused then.
Oh.
We want to extract the most impactful nuggets of knowledge from all these different sources.
Right.
Our goal is to help you not only understand these complex dynamics, but also to, spot them in your own life. And crucially, to equip you with actionable strategies to move towards healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
And as we'll discover, the most profound of those relationships really begins with the one you cultivate with yourself.
Exactly. So let's dive in and unravel these layers. #tag understanding codependency and its roots. Okay, so when we hear the word codependency, it often gets tossed around, doesn't it? Like a buzzword, sometimes pretty casually. But what does it really mean beyond just being, overly needy? Can you help us define it more precisely? What's its core?
Absolutely. And you're right, it is often misused. At its core, codependency isn't just about needing others too much. It's fundamentally about a set of often unspoken, self-imposed rules and limits.
Rules you put on yourself.
Exactly. Rules that individuals create for themselves within relationships. And these rules are usually deeply ingrained, often unconscious, and they lead to this profound inability to say no, even when there's an intense, often unmet desire for genuine intimacy and authentic connection.
So you want closeness, but you can't assert yourself.
Precisely. Think of it this way. Someone with, let's say, healthy boundaries can comfortably say no to a request that doesn't serve them. Right?
Sure.
But they remain completely open to close, meaningful relationships. That's the critical distinction.
Okay.
The transformative insight here is that for a person struggling with codependency, saying no often feels like a direct threat. A threat to their very existence or their worth within that relationship.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is, because their sense of self-worth has become conditionally tied to meeting others' needs. It's an unconscious belief system that basically says, I am valuable if I am indispensable to you.
That makes so much sense. Wow. And okay, a major symptom that springs from this, as our sources highlight, is people-pleasing. It's not just being polite, is it? It goes much deeper.
Oh, not at all. People-pleasing is a really unhealthy behavior.
Yeah.
it serves as a glaring red flag for low self-esteem.
Yeah.
It's profoundly disempowering because, well, you're constantly giving away your agency, your choices.
Right.
It's inauthentic because you're suppressing your true desires and needs.
Yeah.
And honestly, it consumes an immense amount of time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's the motive behind it then?
The underlying motive is quite poignant, actually, and often unconscious. You're essentially expecting others to give you what you desperately aren't giving yourself.
Like what?
Things like love, care, attention, validation. You sort of project that responsibility onto them, hoping they'll fill that void.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it's built on what one source called a fairy tale or magical thinking, isn't it? This idea that if you just do enough for others, even stuff you really don't want to do, it will somehow magically strengthen your relationships or, I don't know, make you feel loved or worthy.
Precisely. It's a completely self-deceiving strategy because, well, it's unsustainable for one, and it's inherently inauthentic.
Right.
As the profound wisdom from Byron Katie goes, when I seek your approval, I don't approve of the me that's seeking the approval. It's just... You simply cannot please everyone, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
And crucially, other people's opinions of you are always just their filtered perceptions, right? They're colored by their own experiences, their biases, their beliefs. They're not objective truths about your worth.
That's a huge realization. And it brings us to a core quality of codependency, one that resonates deeply with so many people. This profound lack of sense of self. It's that unsettling, often deeply painful feeling of, I don't know who I am anymore. Can you expand on what that truly feels like for someone?
Yeah, and it's more than just like a fleeting identity crisis we all might have sometimes.
Sure.
This can manifest as literally losing yourself within a relationship. You know, adopting your partners or maybe new friends' hobbies, their interests, even their political or spiritual beliefs.
Really? That deep?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All in an effort to feel accepted, to kind of merge, to belong. Or, for some, it's a feeling of never truly having known themselves in the first place because their identity was always shaped by the roles they had to play for others, often starting in childhood.
Like wearing a different mask for every person you meet, but then forgetting what your own face looks like underneath.
That's a great analogy. And the profound insight here is that it's not just a forgotten face. It's this exhausting internal battle where your energy is constantly spent trying to guess and meet external expectations, leaving you with absolutely no energy left over to discover or nurture your true desires, your authentic self. So reclaiming that self isn't really finding something that was lost. It's more like actively building something new and authentic.
I can imagine how utterly exhausting that would be. And that internal battle, it often spirals into something even more damaging, doesn't it? Like self-loathing and a pervasive lack of self-respect.
Absolutely. This fundamental lack of self-respect manifests in truly concerning ways. It can include taking significant physical and emotional health risks.
Like what kind of risks?
Well, we see examples like engaging in unprotected sex, maybe neglecting one's own crucial health needs, or financially supporting an adult family member who is, say, in the grips of addiction, even when it jeopardizes one's own stability and safety. It's driven by this pervasive internal feeling of not being enough, not lovable enough, pretty enough, smart enough, rich enough, fit enough. You name it.
That not enough feeling.
Exactly. And this is an incredibly difficult thought pattern to escape, even when someone is actively in recovery. Especially when, pervasive societal marketing constantly pushes these messages of unattainable perfection.
Right. It's everywhere.
Which subtly reinforces that not enough belief, making it even harder to break free.
And then there's the guilt. The guilt. If you're struggling with codependency, it's so common to feel intensely guilty about any self-interest or, God forbid, self-care. It's like taking care of yourself is somehow a betrayal.
That's it, exactly. This leads to not advocating for yourself, to essentially abdicating your basic rights as a person, and often to feeling trapped or held hostage by others' expectations.
Trapped. Yeah.
And the most crucial red flag here, the one that should immediately grab your attention, is resentment.
Resentment.
Resentment is always a sign that we are not advocating for a need or a boundary that we personally have, usually due to a deep-seated lack of awareness or maybe fear or shame, that insidious underlying belief that you don't actually have a right to your own needs or desires.
So resentment isn't just being grumpy, it's a signal.
It's your internal alarm system screaming for attention. Absolutely.
That's a powerful way to frame resentment, not as a character flaw, but as a signal. Okay, now, Let's unpack the origins of codependency, because understanding the roots is absolutely crucial for genuine healing. Where does this pattern usually begin?
It often begins in childhood. Pia Mellody, who's a world-renowned expert in this field, defines it quite powerfully as a disease of immaturity caused by childhood trauma.
Trauma, that's a strong word.
It is, and when we use the word trauma, it's important to remember it stems from a Greek word meaning wound.
Right.
So it refers to any experience that overwhelms an individual's coping mechanisms, leaving them with an emotional or psychological injury. Most individuals struggling with codependency have indeed experienced some form of wounding in their upbringing.
Wounding. So it doesn't have to be like a single catastrophic event.
Not necessarily. It can range from overt abuse, absolutely, to more subtle forms of emotional neglect or inconsistency, things that chip away at a child's sense of safety and worth.
Got it.
And it's also vital to distinguish codependency from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. While there can be overlap, PTSD has its own specific cluster of symptoms and physiological aspects directly related to a terrifying event. Codependency is generally a broader relational dynamic.
Okay, that distinction is helpful. So what kind of childhood environments specifically contribute to this deep wounding and the development of codependency? Our sources point to some very common dysfunctional family dynamics.
Yes, common examples include growing up in a home with an alcoholic or addicted parent, where the child often has to take on an adult role far too early.
Parentification.
Exactly. Or having a parent who struggled with serious and unmanaged mental illness, which creates a really unpredictable and emotionally unsafe environment.
Unpredictable. Yeah.
In these often chaotic or neglectful environments, children frequently adopt specific, rigid roles that prevent them from expressing their authentic selves and developing a stable sense of identity.
Yeah.
These family roles are archetypal survival mechanisms,
Survival mechanism.
but they come at an incredibly high cost to the child's developing psyche.
Can you walk us through some of those archetypal roles and how they impact a child? They sound really significant.
Certainly. For example, there's the placater. This is the child who learns to soothe and comfort others, becoming acutely attuned to everyone else's emotions while suppressing their own feelings and needs. They might internalize the message that their worth comes only from keeping others happy. Then we have the hero, often the perfect child, striving for academic or athletic excellence, believing that their achievements will somehow fix the family problems or earn them love. Their mistakes are often blamed on others, preventing them from learning healthy accountability.
The hero. Right.
The scapegoat becomes the imagined source of all family struggles, frequently blamed for issues way beyond their control, leading to deep feelings of shame and unworthiness.
That sounds rough.
It is. Then there's the lost child, who feels invisible and neglected, often withdrawing into their own world, struggling later with social connections and self-expression.
Invisible.
And finally, the mascot provides comic relief, using humor to deflect tension and cope with family stress, sometimes at the expense of their own emotional processing. They learn to perform instead of feel.
Wow. Placater, hero, scapegoat, lost child, mascot.
And the profound impact is that when children play overlapping roles, which often happens, or when these roles become their sole identity, it further confuses their sense of self and self-worth.
Yeah, I can see that.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these roles, while necessary for survival at the time, become ingrained patterns. They deeply impact an individual's adult relationships, making their codependent behaviors almost understandable given their history. It's like a pre-programmed response learned long ago.
It makes so much sense when you look at it through the lens of survival, and these early connections with our primary caregivers don't just create these roles, they also shape our attachment styles, right? Which are incredibly influential in codependency, particularly one style.
That's right. While several attachment styles exist, secure, avoidant, etc., we need to specifically focus on the ambivalent, also known as anxious preoccupied, attachment style as a particularly significant contributor to codependency.
Okay, anxious preoccupied, what does that look like?
Individuals with this attachment style deeply desire closeness and intimacy, but they often feel profoundly anxious about their partner's reliability or commitment. They tend to become fixated on the other person. Yeah, sort of constantly monitoring them, overreacting to perceived threats to the relationship, and craving constant attention and reassurance from their partner to soothe their underlying anxiety.
That sounds exhausting for everyone involved.
It really is. They also find it incredibly difficult to maintain boundaries, precisely because the thought of separation or disapproval from their partner triggers intense anxiety and a fear of abandonment.
Ah, the fear of abandonment again.
It's huge. This style often leads to an almost obsessive tendency to tend to every one of their partner's needs and constantly seek approval. Sometimes even resorting to manipulative tactics unconsciously, usually out of an overwhelming fear of rejection,
So it's driven by fear.
deep-seated fear. But the good news here, and this is a critical insight, is that the brain is remarkably capable of change and rewiring at any age. Neuroplasticity is real.
Okay, good. So you're not stuck.
You are absolutely not stuck. You can develop a more secure attachment style. This involves actively strengthening nonverbal communication skills, increasing emotional intelligence, consciously addressing any lingering childhood trauma,
Doing the work?
doing the work, and actively seeking out relationships with people who exhibit secure attachment styles themselves, learning from their healthier patterns. It takes effort, but change is possible. #tag relationship trauma and its impact.
Okay, moving from general codependency, let's talk about something incredibly impactful and often deeply misunderstood: relationship trauma. This goes far beyond just, a painful breakup. What exactly are we talking about here?
We're talking about what some researchers propose as post-traumatic relationship syndrome, or PTRS. It's a profound psychological injury.
An injury.
Yes, an injury that stems from sustained abusive, intimate partner behavior, whether that abuse is emotional, physical, or sexual. It can leave incredibly long-lasting psychological and physical effects, deeply altering an individual's sense of self and their capacity for future connection.
Sustained abusive behavior. So it's the pattern, the environment.
Exactly. It's the chronicity and the betrayal of trust within an intimate space that makes it so damaging.
So just to clarify for our listeners, is PTRS an official diagnosis like PTSD? And how is it similar or different from PTSD?
That's an important distinction to make.
Yeah.
PTRS isn't yet an official diagnosis in the DSM-5, which is the main handbook for mental health conditions used by professionals.
Okay.
However, it's a proposed syndrome that fits squarely under the umbrella of PTSD, as many of the symptoms are indeed quite similar.
Such as?
This includes intrusive thoughts like flashbacks, recurrent nightmares of the traumatic events, and various avoidance behaviors, trying to avoid anything that reminds you of the relationship or the person.
Right.
The crucial distinction in PTRS, however, is that the avoidance symptoms are often largely driven by trauma-related shame, rather than just fear or horror, even when physical or sexual violence has occurred.
Shame. Interesting. Why shame?
There's often a deep-seated shame about allowing the abuse to happen, or about the choices made during that abusive period, or even feeling somehow complicit. It's complex and often misplaced, but very powerful.
And that avoidance, driven by shame, probably makes things worse?
Tragically, yes. It tends to worsen the symptoms by reinforcing the belief that even thinking about the trauma or those feelings of shame will somehow cause further harm or be unbearable. It creates a really vicious cycle.
So what does this all mean for someone experiencing it? It means the impact of an unhealthy relationship can run incredibly deep, changing how you perceive yourself and your ability to connect with others, sometimes for years after the relationship ends. What are some of the key signs someone might be experiencing relationship trauma?
The psychological and physical effects are indeed significant and pervasive. Psychologically, you might experience intense rage and anger directed at the abusive partner, even long after the relationship is over. There are often persistent feelings of fear, guilt, shame, disgust, and profound sadness. People frequently find themselves reimagining the trauma repeatedly, trying to make sense of it.
Ruminating.
Constantly. Or experiencing vivid, intrusive flashbacks that make them feel as if they are reliving the event, complete with the physical responses, heart pounding, sweating.
Wow.
Sleep disturbances are also very common. Difficulty falling or staying asleep, disturbing nightmares related to the trauma, which obviously disrupt rest and recovery.
Yeah, sleep is crucial.
Absolutely. And these experiences can severely complicate the ability to establish meaningful relationships in the future, leading to deep trust difficulties. You just don't feel safe letting anyone close.
Makes sense.
And you might develop pervasive feelings of suspicion, becoming hypervigilant in your surroundings and interactions, always on guard, scanning for threats, due to those past boundary violations and the profound betrayal of safety.
Always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. Yeah, feeling.
So, why does this happen? What are the dynamics that lead to such devastating outcomes, especially maybe when combined with that vulnerability that comes with codependency?
Our sources are pretty clear on this. Abuse occurs when one partner seeks to control, manipulate, or gain power over the other. It's fundamentally about a pervasive imbalance of power.
Control and power.
Yes. And several contributing factors can significantly escalate these dangerous situations. Stressful life events, for instance, can heighten tensions in any relationship, but especially in an abusive one.
Right.
A history of trauma in the abusive partner's own life can also contribute to their destructive patterns, though, importantly, it never excuses their behavior.
No, it doesn't excuse it.
Never. And tragically, drug and alcohol use can significantly increase the risk and severity of abuse in relationships, diminishing inhibitions and judgment, making things much more volatile.
Yeah.
This entire dynamic creates a profound imbalance of power and systematically diminishes safety, leading to that persistent fear of experiencing abuse again, or extreme anxiety about abuse in any future relationships.
And within this toxic dynamic, there's a deeply troubling phenomenon called trauma bonding. It sounds so counterintuitive. Why on earth would someone form an attachment to their abuser?
It is deeply counterintuitive, isn't it? But it's a powerful psychological survival mechanism. Trauma bonding occurs when the abused partner develops a strong, often irrational attachment to the abusive partner.
An attachment, not love.
It's not about love in a healthy sense, no. It's a survival mechanism, often driven by these intense cycles of abuse followed by periods of kindness or remorse or affection from the abuser. This creates a powerful intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is highly addictive, psychologically speaking.
Like a roller coaster.
Exactly. And feelings of sympathy or even pity towards the abuser can develop. The abused partner might start to rationalize, justify, or even feel responsible for their abuser's behavior. If only I were better, they wouldn't treat me this way. This tragically perpetuates the cycle of abuse, making it incredibly difficult to break free, even when the abuse is clearly damaging and recognized as such on some level. # tools for healing and cultivating independence. CBT in action.
Okay, now that we've unpacked the really heavy complexities of codependency and relationship trauma, let's pivot to the incredibly good news. There are powerful, empirically validated tools for healing and cultivating independence. Things people can actually do.
Yes, absolutely. There is hope, and there are effective strategies.
And at the heart of this transformation, our sources really emphasize cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Developed by Dr. Aaron T. Beck way back in the 1960s, CBT has become one of the most famous and widely researched treatments in psychology. How does it actually work at a foundational level?
The core principle of CBT is elegantly simple, actually yet profoundly impactful. It goes like this. Events in life trigger our thoughts, which impact our emotions, which then influence our behaviors.
Thoughts, emotions, behaviors.
Exactly. And these behaviors, in turn, shape our life circumstances. So, in essence, the powerful insight is that when we change our thoughts and our actions, we change our lives.
Okay, so change the thoughts, change the actions.
So, change the life. The therapist's role in CBT isn't to fix the client, but rather to empower them to solve their own problems by identifying and consciously changing those unhelpful thinking and behavior patterns.
Empowering the client.
Yes. This includes understanding what CBT calls automatic thoughts, those ideas that just kind of pop into your head without any effort, like thinking, watch out. If someone nearly bumps into you on the street, they happen fast.
Right, immediate reactions.
Then there are core beliefs. These are central, deeply ingrained thoughts about yourself, others, and the world. They form what's called a schema.
A schema, like a blueprint.
Exactly like a blueprint. Think of a schema as your brain's default operating system, a mental framework that organizes information and profoundly influences how you interpret everything around you. For example, a core belief might be, I am dumb, or I am unlovable. And a schema might be that the world is inherently unsafe, or people can't be trusted.
Wow, those run deep.
They do. And negative filtering, where you focus only on failures and dismiss successes, oh, that was just luck, is a prime example of a cognitive distortion stemming from these underlying beliefs.
So the way you think directly impacts how you feel and act.
Precisely. And this raises an important question. How much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from how we interpret and internalize them through these cognitive filters?
That's a powerful question. And it leads us directly to the process of challenging those negative thoughts by unmasking what CBT calls cognitive distortions. These are essentially skewed realities, right? Faulty ways of thinking that intensify distress and lead to ineffective, often self-sabotaging reactions. Our sources highlight several common distortions that are particularly relevant to the codependent mindset. Can you walk us through a few of the most impactful ones, maybe with some relatable examples?
Let's absolutely dive into some of the most prevalent ones, because just recognizing them in yourself is the critical first step towards change. It brings awareness.
Okay.
1, all or nothing thinking. This is extreme black and white thinking. Seeing things in absolutes, no middle ground. For example, someone might think, if I make even one mistake, I'm a total screw-up, or if my partner isn't perfectly happy all the time, I've failed completely. It often uses rigid words like always or never.
Right, no shades of gray.
Yeah.
Exactly. 2, catastrophizing. This is like fortune-telling, the worst possible outcome.
Right.
Predicting extremely negative futures and dramatically exaggerating your inability to cope. For a codependent person, this might sound like, I can't let others know what I really feel, or they will hate me. And if they hate me, I won't be able to handle it. My whole world will fall apart.
Blowing things way out of proportion.
Completely. 3, personalizing. This one is incredibly common in codependency. It's where you mistakenly believe you are the direct cause of others' behavior or feelings, even when you aren't remotely responsible.
Taking everything personally.
Yes. If someone is rude or in a bad mood, you might immediately wonder, what did I do wrong? Completely overlooking their own issues, or maybe they just had a bad day.
Yeah.
4, mind reading. This is another distortion deeply embedded in codependency, where you believe you know what others are thinking or feeling without actually asking them. And the assumption is almost always inaccurate and negative.
Assuming the worst. Right. You might assume a partner's silence means they're angry or don't care about you, even though they might just be tired, stressed about work, or simply lost in thought.
These distortions profoundly affect our views of ourselves, others, the world, and they always seem to contribute to more suffering. So, how do we begin to deconstruct this? How do we move towards a healthier way of thinking? The process is called cognitive restructuring.
Cognitive restructuring is basically learning to challenge this negative, distorted thinking to find a more balanced, supportive cognition, a more helpful way of looking at things. The how-to involves 3 key challenges you can pose to your thoughts.
Okay, 3 challenges.
1, the reality check. First, you ask yourself, what is the evidence to support this distorted thought? Am I looking at facts or just assumptions? You're learning to be a detective for your own mind, critically examining the proof behind your painful thoughts.
Look for the evidence. Got it.
2, pragmatic questioning. Next, you consider the consequences. What are the consequences of indulging this negative thought? How does it actually serve me? Or, more likely, how does it detract from my goals, both short-term and long-term? This helps you see that holding on to these thoughts might be actively harming you.
Is this thought helpful? What does it cost me?
Exactly. 3, put things in perspective. Finally, you remember that you have preferences, absolutely, but you don't need to be rigidly attached to specific outcomes. Life often occurs on a continuum with shades of gray, not in stark black and white. This helps you release the need for things to be perfect, for you to be okay.
Accepting imperfection.
Accepting reality, really.
That's a powerful framework. It's like learning to be a compassionate yet firm detective for your own mind, looking for the facts instead of just believing the first painful thing that pops up. Okay, so once you've challenged these thoughts, the next critical step is to replace them. How do we go about creating new, more supportive thoughts?
It's a deliberate, active process. It's not automatic at first. You consciously create new, supportive thoughts that integrate reality, that acknowledge the facts you uncovered in the reality check. This leads to less overwhelm and more feelings of hope or empowerment.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If your distorted thought was, I'm a total screw-up because I made that mistake, after challenging it with evidence, okay, I made a mistake, but I've succeeded at many other things, you might replace it with something like, I made a mistake and I can learn from it. My worth isn't defined by this single error. Everyone makes mistakes.
That sounds much more balanced.
It is. And sometimes, if you're really stuck, it helps to imagine someone else you care about having the exact same negative thought. What advice would you give them? That distance can often give you clarity and compassion for yourself.
That's a great tip.
The profound long-term goal here is that with enough consistent practice, those negative automatic thoughts will naturally decrease in frequency and intensity. Your brain will literally start defaulting to more balanced, supportive ways of thinking. It becomes the new habit.
Rewiring the brain. This leads us directly to another vital practice in healing and cultivating independence: setting healthy boundaries. For someone who has spent their life people-pleasing or caught in codependent patterns, this can feel incredibly intimidating, maybe even terrifying. How do we define boundaries in this context? And what's the key mindset shift required?
Boundaries are essentially the rules and limits people set for themselves in relationships. But here's the crucial insight: the mindset shift. Boundaries are for ourselves to follow.
For ourselves, not for the other person.
Exactly. They guide and empower our autonomy and emotional safety. They are not about controlling others or dictating their behavior. They're about clearly defining what we will and will not accept, what we are willing and unwilling to do, and then taking action to protect our own well-being based on those limits.
That distinction is huge.
It is absolutely vital for healing, especially from relationship trauma, where boundaries have likely been consistently violated or maybe never existed in the first place.
The biggest challenge here, of course, is often just saying no. For many, the idea of refusing a request, even a small one, without feeling selfish or guilty or overly worried that you might hurt or upset someone else, it feels almost impossible.
It truly does feel impossible at first, but it's a necessary muscle to build for self-respect. Our sources offer some practical phrases for assertiveness that can help ease into this, make it feel a bit less confrontational.
Okay, give us some examples.
Instead of making elaborate excuses, you could simply state, "It's too bad I'm busy then, but please let me know how it turns out." Or a gentle, "No thank you, but it sounds lovely."
Simple and direct.
Yes. When a more direct assertion is needed, you might try, "I know you'd prefer me to stay longer, but I'm tired and I need to leave now." Clear, states your need, acknowledges their preference perhaps, but holds the line.
I like that formula. I know you'd prefer X, but I need Y.
It can be very effective. And as the wise Paulo Coelho reminds us, when you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. The more you practice saying no to what doesn't serve you or drains you, the more authentically you can say yes to what truly brings you joy and aligns with your values.
That's the goal. And how do we apply these boundaries in our actual relationships? Especially with people who might be used to us having no boundaries at all, who might push back.
This requires clarity and consistency. Consistency is key, particularly in relationships with individuals who are codependent themselves or who have historically benefited from your lack of boundaries. You need to clearly define what controlling, coddling, or overwhelming behaviors look like to you.
Define it for yourself first.
Yes. And if those boundaries are crossed, it's absolutely essential to firmly, calmly remind the person of your boundary rather than letting things slide out of discomfort or fear of conflict.
So no letting it slide.
Not if you want the boundary to stick. This might sound like, "I understand you want my advice on this," but remember, I've decided not to give unasked for opinions. I'm happy to listen, though, if you just want to talk it through.
Okay. Clear and reinforces the limit.
Right. In some cases, if boundaries are consistently violated, despite clear communication and reminders, it may even become necessary to reduce the time spent together or adjust the nature of the relationship to protect your own well-being.
That sounds hard.
It can be incredibly hard, but it's ultimately an act of self-respect, not punishment. It's about preserving your own safety and sanity.
All of this challenging work, from rethinking negative thoughts to setting courageous boundaries, it feeds into the ultimate goal, doesn't it? Which is becoming your own best friend. This sounds lovely, maybe a bit cliche, but what does it truly entail in practice?
It's about a radical, fundamental shift in responsibility for your own happiness and well-being. It's embracing a core truth that the codependency workbook emphasizes beautifully. It is not someone else's responsibility to make me feel valued, cherished, loved, whole, and complete. It's mine.
That's liberating.
It really is. This insight liberates you from that endless, exhausting pursuit of external validation. It means making yourself a consistent priority, not occasionally, when you have time, but day in and day out.
A priority, not an afterthought.
Exactly. It's about engaging in activities that genuinely bring you joy, creating happiness from the inside out, rather than waiting for someone else to provide it or make you happy.
Right.
Loving ourselves, mind, body, and soul, is not selfish. It is absolutely necessary for us to function as whole, healthy individuals. There's a huge difference between needing people, which is a fundamental human experience. We all need connection.
Of course.
And being emotionally needy, which is often a symptom of that conditional self-worth we discussed earlier, that feeling of, "I'm not okay unless you approve of me."
That distinction again.
People who take good care of themselves, who fill their own cup first, are naturally less dependent on external approval because their cup is already full from within.
Makes sense.
This involves mindful self-talk, consciously eliminating those disempowering words like, "I am stupid," or "I'm such a failure." You start talking to yourself like you would talk to a cherished friend.
Yeah.
The profound truth is that the only person that is always present in your life, non-negotiable, day and night, is you. So, the relationship with yourself is, without question, the most important one you'll ever cultivate.
That really lands. It's the one constant.
It is. And what's fascinating here, from a psychological perspective, is the radical shift from an external locus of control, where you believe outside forces dictate your life and feelings, to an internal one, where you believe you largely control your own destiny and well-being through your actions, choices, and thoughts. Recognizing that true fulfillment starts within is the ultimate empowerment.
That's incredibly powerful. So for our listeners, what does becoming your own best friend look like in practical daily steps? What can people do?
It's a consistent practice, built over time. Small steps add up. It means actively engaging in activities that build joy and confidence. Maybe taking up cycling, joining a swimming club, going bowling with friends, or simply taking regular walks in nature, whatever genuinely lifts your spirits.
Finding your joy.
Yes. It's prioritizing healthy diet and sleep habits, because your physical well-being directly impacts your mental state and emotional resilience. They're interconnected.
Body and mind.
Absolutely. It's exercising more often, as physical activity demonstrably raises self-esteem and reduces stress hormones. And it's noting your strengths, literally taking the time to write down lists of your positive qualities, your achievements, big or small, your unique skills, and reviewing them regularly, especially when you're feeling stuck or being hard on yourself.
Actively focusing on the positive.
Exactly. These are concrete, actionable steps to building that deep, unwavering inner friendship with yourself. #tag navigating conflict and triggers Rees.
Okay, now let's transition to a topic that brings anxiety to many. Navigating conflict and triggers. These are those situations, people, or things that just seem to throw you off balance, sending you spiraling into old patterns. Identifying and managing triggers is about proactive coping, right? Not just reacting.
Absolutely. Think of triggers as emotional tripwires. They're situations, people, words, even smells or sounds sometimes, that produce intense, anxious, or distressed feelings. They often lead to a cascade of negative and obsessive thoughts, and then to unhelpful or even hurtful responses, snapping at someone, withdrawing, people-pleasing intensely.
The old patterns kick in.
Instantly. For someone with codependent patterns or a history of relationship trauma, triggers can be particularly potent because they tap into those old wounds, old fears, old beliefs about safety and worth.
So how do we begin to disarm these tripwires? How do we stop them from hijacking us?
One powerful clinical tool for managing triggers is exposure therapy. Now, this might sound scary, but it involves gradually and systematically exposing yourself to feared situations or stimuli in a safe, controlled way. The goal is to desensitize yourself to the anxiety and reduce your emotional reactivity over time.
Gradually. Okay, can you give an example?
Let's consider Jade, a listener who bravely shared her struggle with us earlier. Jade was terrified of speaking up to her husband, Manish, about household tasks. She felt a knot in her stomach every time she even thought about it, fearing conflict and Manish's potential reaction.
Yeah, that sounds familiar for many.
Right. Through exposure therapy, Jade wouldn't immediately confront Manish about a major issue that might be too overwhelming. Instead, she might start with smaller assertions that evoke a manageable level of anxiety.
Like baby steps.
Exactly. Perhaps she first practices telling her mom, who tends to be a bit overbearing, that she can't visit for the holidays this year. She feels that discomfort, maybe guilt, but she does it and sees that nothing catastrophic happens. The world doesn't end. Then she might move to asking a coworker to please stop taking credit for her ideas in meetings. Again, experiencing the anxiety but finding her voice. Even something as seemingly simple as asking a restaurant to politely fix your order when it's wrong can be a powerful micro-exposure.
Building the muscle.
Precisely. The process involves listing these challenges, assessing your predicted anxiety level beforehand, say on a 0-10 scale, then engaging in the exposure, and finally reassessing how accurate your anxious predictions actually were. This repeated positive experience helps to dismantle the belief that these situations are inherently dangerous or unbearable, reinforcing that your negative predictions are often wildly inaccurate.
This is like building a mental 5 drill for your emotions, so when the alarm goes off, you already know your escape route. It sounds incredibly empowering. Another incredible tool, closely related, is response prevention. What's that?
Yes, response prevention is about developing an effective action plan in advance to behave differently when faced with a trigger, rather than defaulting to old destructive patterns. It's about planning your response.
Planning ahead.
Exactly. Let's take Sophia, another listener we mentioned, whose husband has unfortunately cheated multiple times. She knows that if infidelity occurs again, her usual response of panic, desperate confrontation, and then intense self-blame is profoundly damaging to her.
Right.
For her, a response prevention plan might involve: first, visualizing herself, finding proof of the infidelity, preparing mentally, Then immediately deploying a coping thought she's practiced beforehand, something like, even if I find out he is cheating, I will survive this. I'm stronger than I give myself credit for, and I have options.
A coping thought. Okay.
Next, she'd immediately engage in self-soothing, maybe deep breaths, maybe splashing cold water on her face to calm her physiological response to get out of that panic mode.
Grounding herself.
Yes. Her next pre-planned action might be to calmly leave the house for a hotel, blocking his calls initially, and then calling her mom or a trusted friend for support to plan her next steps from a calmer place, rather than engaging in a chaotic, emotionally charged confrontation right then and there.
That sounds much more strategic.
It is. This pre-planned strategy helps to interrupt those destructive automatic reactions. It creates emotional space and builds new, healthier pathways of response in the brain. It's about consciously choosing a different path when the old, familiar, painful one beckons.
Once you're better equipped to manage triggers, you can move toward effective problem solving in relationships. Many of us have tried to solve relationship problems in the past, often unsuccessfully. Maybe because we weren't addressing the underlying thinking mistakes or triggers, or we just lacked a constructive framework. CBT, once again, offers a clear, actionable approach, doesn't it?
That's right. The steps are straightforward, but they require intentionality and practice. First, you need to clearly determine the problem, being as specific as possible. Don't be vague.
Specificity is key.
Yes. For instance, for Jade and Manish, the problem wasn't just Manish's drinking problem in general. It was his specific, disrespectful, and aggressive behavior when drunk. Being specific helps you target the actual issue you need to address.
Okay, define the specific problem, then what?
Second, you brainstorm options, and this is crucial. No idea is a bad idea at this stage. Let your mind run free. You can even ask trusted friends or a therapist for suggestions if you're stuck.
Get creative.
Third, you choose a solution, weighing the pros and cons of each option realistically. What's feasible? What aligns with your values? Finally, you take action, focusing on immediate solutions first. What can I do right now? Then working towards longer-term ones.
Action is the final step.
And it's also vital to distinguish between solvable problems, where you focus on fixing the issue directly, like calling a cab if stranded, and unresolvable ones, where the situation is largely outside your control, like a partner's addiction, perhaps. In those cases, you primarily focus on managing your own feelings and reactions to the situation.
Control what you can control.
Exactly. This whole process is profoundly empowering. As the workbook says, when you are able to respond maturely to problems, you will see how capable you truly are of handling whatever life throws your way. You will trust yourself more, a necessary step in developing self-love.
That distinction between solvable and unresolvable problems and how to approach each is really key. Can you give us a few more concrete examples of how this CBT problem-solving framework plays out in real-life relationship scenarios beyond Jade and Sophia? Just to make it really clear.
Certainly. Let's take Leonore, who felt uncomfortable with her new partner, Peter, asking her to invest a large sum in his business without clear information or legal protection. Her problem wasn't Peter is bad, but specifically, I feel financially vulnerable and pressured by Peter's request given the lack of information.
Okay, specific.
Her solution wasn't just to say no outright or to immediately give in out of fear. Instead, she clearly stated her need for comprehensive financial information and legal review before considering any investment. This was both setting a boundary and a problem-solving step.
Right. Another one.
Or consider a very common issue, household chore imbalance. Instead of one partner nagging and the other feeling resentful, the problem is defined as the current uneven distribution of household labor is causing resentment for me and burnout.
Much clearer than you never help.
Right. Brainstorming might include creating a chore chart, maybe hiring help if feasible, or reevaluating standards together. The chosen solution might be a collaborative task division plan and clear, consistent communication about it, leading to action, like scheduling a brief weekly check-in about chores.
Proactive. Okay, more examples.
Another listener, Mila, was consumed by suspicion that her partner Aaron was flirting excessively with her mutual friend Jose. Her problem wasn't immediately, Aaron is cheating, but I feel insecure and triggered by Aaron's interactions with Jose, and I need clarity. Her steps involved validating her observations by journaling specific instances and her feelings, then critically planning a direct, joint conversation with Aaron, stating her feelings using I statements, I feel insecure when, and being prepared to listen to Aaron's perspective without accusations.
Addressing the insecurity directly.
Yes. What if your spouse is consistently late for pickups? The immediate problem is the inconvenience, I need a ride now. The long-term problem might be perceived disrespect or lack of reliability. The immediate solution. Maybe call a cab this time, the long-term one. A candid conversation leading to a better car-sharing plan or a clear communication protocol for delays.
Immediate and long-term solutions.
Exactly. For a parent dealing with perceived emotional neglect from their child, the specific problem might be, my daughter has expressed feeling unheard and unseen lately. The solution steps could include scheduling regular one-on-one time, maybe a staycation, where they prioritize shared activities, starting a shared journal for private communication, and consciously dedicating daily quality time, even if brief.
Addressing the specific need.
And what about a partner overspending from shared savings? This causes huge conflict. The immediate action is a direct discussion about the impact of the overspending. I feel anxious when the savings dip below X. The long-term solution might involve removing debit cards linked to joint accounts, creating individual spending accounts alongside the shared one, and setting a clear, mutually agreed-upon budget. This addresses the behavior and protects shared resources.
Practical steps.
In each of these, the focus shifts from blaming the person to identifying the specific problematic behavior or situation, brainstorming solutions collaboratively where possible, and taking deliberate, concrete action. This builds self-trust and relationship trust.
These detailed examples really bring the framework to life. That brings us nicely to managing conflicts and emotions directly, which counterintuitively perhaps is actually how you deepen intimacy, not destroy it.
It's absolutely true, though it feels scary. It's a universal truth that differences in personalities are unavoidable. Disagreement is inevitable in any close relationship.
Yeah, no two people are the same.
Exactly. The powerful insight here is that effective conflict resolution, despite feeling uncomfortable or even frightening in the moment, actually deepens intimacy.
How so?
Because it involves the vulnerability of sharing your true needs, your fears, your desires, and risking a no or difficult conversation. When you navigate that successfully, it builds trust that the relationship can withstand disagreement and honesty.
Okay, it builds resilience in the relationship.
Precisely.
For this to work, assertive communication is essential, isn't it? Not aggressive, not passive, but assertive. What does that look like in practice, especially when emotions are running high?
Assertive communication means being clear, specific, and kind, as opposed to passive, hinting, avoiding, aggressive, blaming, attacking, or passive-aggressive, sarcasm, silent treatment.
Clear, specific, kind.
It's about stating your needs directly, using I statements, I feel X when Y happens and I need Z, without blaming or demanding, and crucially, while respecting the other person's right to their own feelings and boundaries. This helps prevent escalation and aids in repair after a disagreement.
Okay. But what happens when emotions do run high?
Yes. A key concept here, one we alluded to earlier, is flooding. This is a physiological overwhelm. Your body literally perceives danger, maybe from a partner's irritability or hearing criticism or even just having very different needs expressed.
Your body reacts.
Instantly. Your heart rate increases, breathing becomes shallow, you might feel hot or shaky. You literally enter a fight or flight or freeze state. And when you are flooded, clear thinking, effective listening, and empathy are basically impossible. Your primitive brain takes over.
Yeah, you can't reason when you're panicking.
Exactly. This raises an important question. When our bodies go into fight or flight, how can we possibly engage constructively? The answer is you really can't, not effectively.
Right. You simply can't think straight when your body is screaming, danger. That's why the timeout strategy is so incredibly powerful and necessary. How does that work in a practical sense?
It's a formal, prearranged agreement with your partner. It's not just storming off. It's agreeing ahead of time that either person can call a timeout when they feel flooded.
Like a safe word for arguments.
Kind of. You agree to take a break from a difficult conversation, typically 10 to 30 minutes, specifically to allow both parties to physiologically calm down. This is crucial because it prevents stonewalling, shutting down, refusing to engage, or simply leaving a conversation abruptly, which research shows is a strong predictor of relationship breakdown.
Okay, prevent stonewalling. What do you do during the timeout?
During this timeout, both individuals commit to actively self-soothing. It's not about rehearsing your arguments or fuming, it's about calming your nervous system. For example, taking deep breaths, going for a short walk, listening to calming music, maybe journaling about your feelings. The point is to reduce that physiological arousal.
Actively calm down. Got it. And once that timeout is over and both parties have hopefully regulated their emotions, how do you return to the discussion constructively? What's the reentry plan?
The goal is to return to the discussion only when both people are calm enough to think clearly and listen openly. You express your needs clearly, again using those I statements, while also actively expressing understanding for the other person's perspective.
Understanding their side, too.
Yes, this means actively listening, maybe even using their own words to show you heard them. So what I hear you saying is you felt frustrated when. Show genuine empathy, even if you don't agree. You must accept the other person's right to their own reality, their own feelings. The goal is negotiation and finding a win-win solution, or at least understanding, not convincing them they're wrong and you're right.
Negotiation, not winning. Let's use a few more examples to really cement this conflict management piece.
Okay, remember Jade and Manish. When Manish was drunk, he was disrespectful. Jade's planned strategy involved taking a time out herself when she felt flooded by his behavior. She'd journal her feelings to process them. Then she would only speak to Manish about the issue when he was sober. She would start by maybe acknowledging his feelings, perhaps his frustration about perceived nagging, but then clearly state her needs for honesty, respect, and safety within the relationship. When you drink and speak to me like that, I feel scared and disrespected. I need us to talk about this when you're sober.
Clear boundary, clear need.
Consider newlyweds facing their first holiday conflict. One wants to spend Christmas with their family, the other with theirs. Big tension. They might both feel disappointed or hurt. Instead of arguing endlessly, they agree to take a time out.
Okay, pause.
Then, maybe one starts by expressing their own disappointment. I feel sad about not seeing my family, but also validates the partner's desire. I know how much seeing your family means to you. They assert their own need for some family time for themselves, and then they negotiate, perhaps alternating holidays year by year, or splitting the day, or finding another creative solution. Another example. Harry felt intense resentment towards his partner Jasmine because she wasn't contributing equally financially after losing her job. Instead of letting it fester or exploding, he took a time out when he felt angry. When calm, he acknowledged his initial resentment, I've been feeling stressed about money, but also validated her difficult situation. I know things have been tough since the job loss. Then he asserted his need for a plan. I need us to figure out a budget that feels more equitable right now. Together, they could brainstorm a temporary plan.
Validating and asserting.
Or imagine Tess struggling with Beckett's mother, Rachel, constantly overstepping boundaries with their children's discipline. Tess needs respect in her parenting choices. Beckett, in turn, needs to support Tess. Their private discussion would involve Tess expressing her needs clearly to Beckett. I feel undermined when your mom contradicts me. Beckett needs to validate Tess. I understand why that's frustrating. Then together they communicate assertive boundaries to Rachel, perhaps saying calmly but firmly, Mom, we appreciate your love for the kids, but we've decided on X approach for their discipline, and we need you to support us on that.
United front.
Even in complex step-parent dynamics where emotions run high, a step-parent can validate a child's feelings about a new parent figure. I know it's weird having me around sometimes, while also gently asserting the new family dynamic, but I'm here now, and I care about you. Then planning family meetings to discuss expectations and ensure everyone feels heard and respected can be key.
So what does this all mean? It means conflict isn't the end of a relationship. It's actually a profound opportunity to make it stronger, to deepen intimacy, if you have the right tools and mindset.
Exactly. Whether it's setting financial boundaries, addressing chore imbalance, tackling sensitive issues like flirtatious behavior, or navigating family dynamics, the framework remains pretty much the same. Recognize your needs. Communicate assertively. With emotions regulated, use timeouts. Pay attention to your feelings and validate the other person's emotions. Remain respectful of both yourself and the other person. Then say your piece clearly, listen openly, and work towards understanding or a solution. This process helps create those healthy, interdependent relationships where everyone's needs have a chance to be met, rather than just one person constantly sacrificing. #, cultivating a calm and grounded mind.
Okay, now let's bring all of these powerful insights and tools together by focusing on cultivating a calm and grounded mind. This seems like the foundation for applying everything else. And this journey starts with a fundamental, often challenging acceptance of life's inherent stress. Is that right?
That's a crucial starting point, yes. The reality is, life will always include stressful situations, unexpected challenges, moments of discomfort, loss, disappointment. It's part of the human condition.
Yeah, nobody gets a free pass.
Exactly. No amount of planning, self-help books, or therapy can completely prevent problems from arising. A codependent individual often tends to deny this truth, clinging to that magical thinking that if they just control enough or please enough, problems won't touch them.
Right, trying to control the uncontrollable.
And this denial often reinforces pain, anger, and stress when reality inevitably intrudes. However, an interdependent person, the person we're striving to become through this work, accepts this reality. They don't like it necessarily, but they accept it. They then focus on cultivating positive coping skills and learn to tolerate discomfort and uncertainty rather than fixating on problems or wishing things were different.
Tolerating discomfort, that's a skill.
It really is. I always like to imagine a strong, ancient tree. It's so deeply grounded with strong roots that when the weather is stormy, even while its branches sway and bend dramatically in the wind, it's never uprooted. That's the goal for your internal state, to remain grounded, centered, and resilient no matter what chaos swirls around you externally.
That's a great image. And a key, incredibly accessible way to achieve that grounding is through mindfulness practices. It sounds simple, maybe even trendy, but what exactly is mindfulness in this context?
Mindfulness is simply the practice of focusing your attention on what is happening right now in this present moment. Both internally, what are you feeling in your body, what thoughts are passing through your mind, and externally, what's happening in your environment. It's about being fully present, without judgment, just observing.
Without judgment. That's the hard part.
It is the hard part. But the benefits are profound. It significantly reduces rumination, that obsessive, repetitive thinking about what upsets you or what might happen. It increases empathy, which, as we discussed, is crucial for effective conflict resolution. And it helps you regulate your emotions more effectively by creating a little space between a trigger and your reaction. You get a moment to choose.
A pause button. How can people practice this easily?
Developing a mindfulness practice can be incredibly simple and woven into your daily life. You don't need a special cushion or hours of time. When you're eating, for instance, truly just eat. Focus on the taste, the texture, the look, the smell of your food, and the physical sensations of chewing and swallowing. Put your phone away.
Mindful eating.
Yes. Or, next time you're waiting in line at the grocery store or for an appointment, resist the urge to pull out your phone immediately. Instead, simply observe your surroundings. What sounds do you hear? What smells? What colors and shapes do you see? Tune into your physical sensations. The feel of your feet on the ground, the air on your skin. This active observation, without judgment, helps manage reactions to stress, as all emotions actually originate with physical sensations in the body first. Here's where it gets really interesting. It's about training your attention muscle, isn't it? So you can truly be where your feet are, rather than constantly caught in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. Another incredibly powerful, always available tool for stress management is simply your breathing. Our breath truly is the body's fundamental reset button. It's absolutely right. When you're in that fight or flight state, which many codependent individuals live in almost constantly due to chronic anxiety, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, happening high up in your chest. This activates your sympathetic nervous system, your body's stress response.
The accelerator pedal.
Exactly. For those with chronic stress, this shallow chest breathing can become the unconscious default. You actually might need to relearn how to breathe deeply from your diaphragm, your belly.
Belly breathing.
Yes. When you consciously practice diaphragmatic breathing,
Right.
breathing deep into your belly rather than just your chest, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, that's your body's rest and digest system, the brake pedal.
Okay.
This immediately induces relaxation. Studies consistently show that deep diaphragmatic breathing lowers anxiety, depression, and stress. It improves cognitive attention and focus and reduces fatigue and burnout. It's physiologically powerful.
How do you do it?
It's simple. Place one hand gently on your belly and one on your chest. Imagine a small balloon in your belly. Take slow, deep inhales through your nose, feeling your belly expand like that balloon, while your chest stays relatively still. Hold the breath gently for a few seconds and then slowly exhale through your mouth as if you're pushing all the stale air out, feeling your belly contract. As you do this rhythmically, you're literally sending a signal to your brain to relax, to come back to a state of calm.
I can feel the shift.
You really can, and you can use this anywhere, anytime. Our listener, Kate, for example, found herself feeling overwhelmed and anxious just standing in the grocery store aisle. She paused, placed a hand on her belly, and took 3 slow, deep diaphragmatic breaths. She felt her body visibly relax, allowing her to finish her shopping calmly. It's a portable tool.
That simple practice can be a game changer for so many daily stressors. This also leads us to the important distinction between conscious suppression and destructive repression. Sometimes when you're truly overwhelmed, you might need a temporary break from your intense emotions or thoughts. But there's a healthy way to do it, right?
Indeed. The danger is destructive repression, or just stuffing emotions down indefinitely, pretending they don't exist. This is like putting a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, it leads to explosions like sudden outbursts of yelling at a partner or kicking the furniture, or implosions like self-harm, excessive drinking, emotional eating, or even ending up hospitalized due to unchecked stress impacting physical health.
So stuffing is bad. What's the alternative?
The alternative is using suppression positively and consciously. This means acknowledging the feeling or thought, wow, I'm really angry right now, acknowledging that maybe now isn't the time or place to fully process it, and then consciously visualizing a container, a sturdy box, a secure jar, a locked chest, whatever image works for you, into which you temporarily place those distressing thoughts, feelings, or sensations.
Putting it somewhere safe for later.
Exactly. And crucially, you then make a firm commitment to yourself to address them later, at a specific, more appropriate time. Whether that's in your next therapy session, during your scheduled journaling time, or in a planned conversation with a trusted friend or partner.
Okay, so it's not ignoring it forever.
No, it's a deliberate pause, not a permanent dismissal. For example, if Manna Herson feels a surge of anger at Becky's silence during a discussion, instead of reacting immediately by yelling or withdrawing, he can take a few deep breaths, use a coping thought like, I can tolerate this feeling for now, I don't need to act on it immediately, and then visualize putting his anger into that locked chest, intending to discuss it calmly with Becky later or process it in therapy.
That's a crucial difference, the intention to return to it later. Another powerful technique that seems to liberate so many people is the art of letting go, or detachment. It's embodied by that simple yet profound mantra, it is what it is.
Yes. Detachment means focusing on the present moment, without judgment or expectation. It's about accepting reality, even when it's uncomfortable or not what you wanted. It doesn't mean you become passive or don't care.
Right, it's not apathy.
Not at all. It means you release your resistance to what is. You stop fighting reality in your head. This significantly lowers stress by reducing that relentless fixation on wishing things were different, on battling against what you cannot change in this moment.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Consider being stuck in traffic, a common frustration. A fixated, resistant person fuels their anger and stress by wishing the situation were different, maybe honking their horn, complaining endlessly, getting enraged. Their suffering increases dramatically.
Yeah, we've all seen that person, or been that person.
Right. While a mindful, more detached person accepts the reality of the traffic, okay, I'm stuck here for a bit, they acknowledge any frustration, but then they find helpful ways to cope within the situation. Maybe listening to an audiobook, practicing breathing exercises, calling a friend, hands-free, or simply observing their surroundings and enjoying the unexpected moment of stillness.
Choosing a different response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This raises that important question again. How much energy do we unwittingly expend fighting reality rather than simply adapting to it? That energy can then be redirected to self-care, problem-solving what we can control, and growth.
That's a huge shift in perspective. And finally, to help anchor your mind in this calmer, more grounded state, meditation techniques are invaluable. What are some accessible ways our listeners can begin to integrate meditation into their lives? It can seem intimidating.
It can seem intimidating, but the general principles are wonderfully simple. Ideally, find a relatively quiet place, focus your attention on the present moment, off of the breath, and gently, without judgment, return your attention whenever your mind inevitably wanders off. That's the core practice.
The wandering mind is normal.
Completely normal. Mindfulness meditation is simply focusing on your breath to stay present, exactly as we just discussed with diaphragmatic breathing. That's a form of meditation right there.
Okay, what else?
Beyond that basic breath awareness, there's guided meditation for difficult conversations, which is incredibly practical for the issues we've discussed. Apps and online resources offer tons of these. They prepare you mentally and emotionally for challenging talks by helping you set positive intentions and visualize a constructive outcome beforehand.
Like a mental rehearsal.
Yes, you might focus on breathing in peace and exhaling tension, visualizing the other person with compassion, even if you're upset with them, and affirming your right to express your needs and your responsibility to share them kindly.
That sounds really helpful.
Mantra meditation is another type. It uses a word, a phrase, or a sound like the ancient yogic sound Om, or a simple word like peace or calm to keep your mind centered. The repeated mantra acts as an anchor to return to when the mind wanders. Studies even show that chanting Om can physiologically reduce breathing and heart rates, illustrating its calming effect. You can also create personal mantras that ground you in difficult moments, such as, I am safe, or I am enough, or this too shall pass.
Using a word as an anchor.
Exactly. And finally, there's yoga meditation, specifically alternate nostril breathing, known as Nadi Shodhana Pranayama in Sanskrit. This is a specific physical breathing practice that can profoundly relax you, reduce headaches, and calm the nervous system by supposedly balancing the body's energy channels.
How does that one work?
Well, it's a bit hard to describe perfectly in audio. It involves using your right hand to gently close one nostril while you inhale through the other, then switching nostrils for the exhale and repeating in a rhythmic pattern. The goal is the calming rhythm and the focused attention it requires, bringing you fully into your body. For those who want to practice the exact technique, we'll definitely link to a visual guide in our show notes.
Okay, good.
These various practices, mindfulness, breathing, conscious suppression, letting go, meditation when done consistently, even for short periods daily, lead to incredible self-empowerment. You learn deeply that while you cannot control every external event or every fleeting emotion that arises, you are absolutely capable and increasingly in control of your response. And that conscious response is where true freedom lies. Hashtag outro.
Wow. We've journeyed through a really intricate and, let's be honest, often challenging landscape today. We covered codependency, explored the profound impact of relationship trauma, and discovered some incredibly powerful, actionable tools for healing and growth.
It's been a lot, but really important stuff.
Absolutely. We started by defining codependency beyond the buzzword, really unraveling its roots in childhood trauma and those dysfunctional family dynamics, understanding how people-pleasing and that lack of self-sense manifest internally. Then we delved into relationship trauma, clarifying its signs and the insidious dynamics of abuse and trauma bonding.
Yeah, bringing light to that is crucial.
And finally, we explored a pretty comprehensive toolkit of CBT-based strategies, from challenging negative thoughts and unmasking those cognitive distortions,
Like the detective work?
to setting healthy self-honoring boundaries, becoming your own best friend through genuine self-care, effectively managing triggers and conflict using things like timeouts and assertive communication,
Building those skills.
and ultimately cultivating a calm, grounded mind through mindfulness, conscious suppression, detachment, and various meditation techniques. It's really a journey from seeking external validation to building internal strength.
You now have, hopefully, a clearer roadmap to navigate your own emotional landscape and build relationships that truly serve you, relationships built on authenticity and mutual respect rather than fear or obligation.
A roadmap. I like that.
And remember, recovery isn't a single destination you just arrive at one day and you're fixed. It's a profound, continuous lifestyle. It's a daily practice of showing up for yourself with courage, with curiosity, and with boundless compassion, especially when you slip up. It's about building resilience and trust in your own capacity to navigate life's inevitable storms.
That's a beautiful way to put it, a continuous practice. So here's a final thought for everyone listening. If our worth isn't determined by how much we give to others or how much they approve of us, but by how fully and authentically we show up for ourselves, what is one small, authentic yes to yourself you can commit to this week? Even, and maybe especially, if it means saying no to something or someone else.